What is comprehensible input really? Now, relax. You don't need to memorize rules. You don't need to take notes. You don't need to repeat yet. You don't need to understand every word. Just listen. Comprehensible input is the real foundation of language learning. It is not a new technique. It is not a trend. It is the natural way the human brain learns languages. Comprehensible input means this. You listen to English that you can mostly understand. Not perfectly, but with enough clarity to follow the message. You understand the idea. You understand the situation. You understand the intention. Even if some words are new. Even if some expressions are not 100% clear. And that is exactly what your brain needs. This is how you learned your first language. When you were a child, no one explained grammar to you. No one talked to you about verb tenses. No one asked you to conjugate. You just listened. Again and again. You listened to your mother. You listened to your father. You listened to other people. At first, you didn't understand much. Then you understood a little. Later, you understood almost everything. That process was never forced. It was never stressful. It was never conscious. It was natural. That is comprehensible input. Now let's clarify something very important. Comprehensible input is not listening to just anything in English. It is not watching a difficult series. It is not listening to advanced news. It is not listening to fast English without context. That does not help. That frustrates. That blocks learning. Comprehensible input is clear English. Contextual English. English adapted to your level. English where you understand what is happening. The correct level of comprehensible input is this. You understand between 70 and 90%. Not everything. But enough. If you understand 100%, there is no growth. If you understand less than 50%, there is stress. Learning happens in the middle. In that place where you say, I understand almost everything. I can follow this. Sometimes I don't know a word, but it doesn't matter. That is the perfect point. Now imagine you are listening to a simple story. You know who the character is. You know where they are. You know what they want. You know what problem they have. Suddenly, a new word appears. You don't translate it. You don't stop the audio. You don't worry. The word appears again. In another sentence. In another context. Your brain observes. Your brain compares. Your brain connects. Without conscious effort. This is how real vocabulary is acquired. Not by memorizing lists. Not by using flashcards. But by understanding meaning inside a story. The same thing happens with grammar. You hear sentences like, I'm working now. I worked yesterday. I will work tomorrow. You don't study the rule. But the brain notices the pattern. The brain understands when to use each form. That is acquisition. Not study. That is why comprehensible input is so powerful. Because it works with the brain. Not against it. Now, a very important truth. If you feel frustrated, the input is too difficult. If you feel bored, the input is too easy. Correct comprehensible input feels like this. You feel calm. You feel curious. You feel capable. Not tired. Not tense. Not lost. That emotional state is key. The brain learns better when it feels safe. When there is no fear. When there is no pressure. That is why this method works. Now listen carefully. Don't try to speak yet. Don't try to repeat yet. Don't try to correct yourself. Your only task right now is this. Listen. Understand the message. Enjoy the process. The brain will do the rest. This is not magic. This is neuroscience. Every time you listen to comprehensible input, neural connections are created. Sound connects with meaning. Structure becomes familiar. And one day, without warning, the words come out. Naturally. Fluently. Without translation. That is real learning. Take a deep breath. You are learning. Right now. How the brain acquires English through listening. Now let's go deeper. To truly learn English, you need to understand something essential. The brain does not learn languages the way it learns mathematics. It does not learn through rules. It does not learn through long explanations. The brain learns languages through exposure. Through repetition. Through meaning. When you listen to comprehensible English, your brain is not thinking consciously. It is not analyzing. It is not translating. It is detecting patterns. The human brain is a pattern machine. It listens to sounds. It notices repetitions. It connects sounds with situations. For example, you hear phrases many times like, "How are you?" "I'm fine." "Nice to meet you." No one explains why it is said that way. But your brain learns when to use it. That is acquisition. Now think about this. When you listen to a story in comprehensible English, several areas of the brain activate at the same time. The sound area activates. The meaning area activates. The emotion area activates. The more areas that participate, the stronger the learning. That is why stories work better than word lists. The brain remembers experiences, not definitions. Now let's talk about something very important. The brain needs time. It does not learn everything in one day. It does not learn everything in 1 week. It learns little by little. In a cumulative way. Each time you hear a structure, it becomes more familiar. At first, you recognize it. Then you understand it. Then you anticipate it. And finally, you use it. Without thinking. That is fluency. Fluency is not speaking fast. Fluency is not translating. Now listen to this. When you try to speak too early, the brain blocks. Because it does not yet have enough internal patterns. It is like trying to play a song without having listened to it before. It doesn't work. That is why the correct order is: listen. Understand. Repeat mentally. Speak. That order respects how the brain learns. Now let's talk about memory. Memory does not work well under pressure. When there is stress, the brain closes. Attention drops. Retention decreases. But when you listen calmly, attention increases. Understanding improves. Connections strengthen. That is why comprehensible input must feel safe. It should not feel like a test. It should feel like listening to an interesting story. Now something key. The brain learns sounds before words. First, it recognizes rhythm. Then intonation. Then pauses. And only after that, individual words. That is why listening is more important than reading at the beginning. Reading comes later. Writing comes later. Listening builds the foundation. Now imagine you listen to English every day. Not for hours. But consistently. 15 minutes. 30 minutes. Every day. The brain adapts. It begins to recognize the language as something familiar. It stops seeing it as something strange. And when something feels familiar, it stops being scary. That is the moment when learning accelerates. Now an important truth. The brain learns better when you don't force it. It learns better when you trust the process. Your job is not to control the learning. Your job is to expose yourself to the right language. The brain will do the rest. Listen. Understand. Relax. And let the language in. Principio del formulario. How to use comprehensible input correctly in your daily routine. Now that you understand what comprehensible input is and how the brain learns, let's move to something very important. Practical application. Because comprehensible input does not work by accident. It works when it is used in the right way. First, let's talk about quantity. You don't need to listen to English all day. You don't need to spend hours. The key is not quantity. The key is quality. 15 minutes of good comprehensible input are better than 2 hours of difficult English. Start with short sessions. 15, 20, 30 minutes. But do it every day. Consistency is more important than intensity. Now let's talk about content. The content must follow 3 simple rules. Rule number 1. It must be comprehensible. You should understand the general idea without effort. If you need to pause every 10 seconds, it is too difficult. Rule number 2. It must have context. Stories. Conversations. Real situations. The brain needs context to learn meaning. Rule number 3. It must be interesting to you. If you don't care about the content, the brain shuts down. Emotion keeps attention alive. Now let's look at how to listen. When you listen to comprehensible input, your attitude is key. Don't listen like a student. Listen like a person. Listen to understand. Don't listen to analyze. If a new word appears, don't chase it. Let it pass. If it is important, it will come back. Trust that. Now let's talk about repetition. Repetition is part of the process. Listening to the same audio several times is not boring. It is smart. The first time, you understand the idea. The second time, you understand more details. The third time, the language feels familiar. That is acquisition. Now, something very important. Do not combine comprehensible input with constant translation. Translating breaks the process. Train your brain to understand directly. Use mental images. Use context. Use the situation. That creates fluency. Now let's talk about the time of day. The best time to listen is when you are relaxed. Not when you are stressed. Not when you are mentally tired. It can be in the morning. It can be while walking. It can be before going to sleep. Choose a calm moment. Make it a habit. Something automatic. Like brushing your teeth. Now listen to this. Don't try to measure your progress every day. Progress is not linear. One day you will understand more. Another day, less. That is normal. Learning happens quietly. Suddenly, one day, you realize it. You understand more. Without knowing when it happened. That means it worked. Now an important warning. No. Principio del formulario. Common mistakes and how to avoid them when using comprehensible input. Now let's talk about something very important. Mistakes. Because comprehensible input works. But it only works when you avoid certain habits that block learning. The first common mistake is this. Choosing content that is too difficult. Many people think. If I listen to advanced English, I will learn faster. That is not true. When the content is too difficult, you don't understand the message. You get lost. You get frustrated. And when there is frustration, the brain shuts down. The solution is simple. Lower the level. Choosing easy content is not going backward. It is moving forward in an intelligent way. The second common mistake is translating everything mentally. This habit is very strong. But it is also very damaging. When you translate, you break the rhythm. You lose the meaning. You tire the mind. The solution is not to fight translation. The solution is to ignore it. Keep listening. Let the context do its work. The third common mistake is wanting to speak too early. The pressure to speak blocks fluency. Speaking is a consequence. It is not the starting point. First, listen. First, understand. Speaking will come on its own. The fourth common mistake is listening irregularly. Listening today. Then nothing for a week. That does not create patterns. The brain needs constant contact. Better a little every day than a lot only once. The fifth common mistake is turning listening into studying. Pausing every sentence. Analyzing every word. Looking for rules. That is not listening. That is analysis. An analysis does not create fluency. The solution is to change your intention. Listen to understand. Not to study. Now let's talk about the right mindset. Trust the process. Learning does not always feel like learning. Sometimes it feels like nothing is happening. But the brain is working. Silently. Do not look for immediate results. Look for consistency. Look for calm. Listen to this carefully. You do not need special talent. You do not need to be good at languages. You need the right method. And comprehensible input is that method. If you listen to comprehensible English every day, calmly, with interest, without pressure, the language enters. It stays. And one day, when you least expect it, you speak. You understand. You think in English. That is the real result. Now let's close. Take a deep breath. Remember this. You are not studying English. You are acquiring English. And that changes everything. Thank you for listening.